Wow, what an amazing session we had. We just have Mr. Mike Alden on with us, and he's an amazing entrepreneur, and he has some rough beginnings, and he's teaching us about like what it takes, if it's possible for somebody that has not a silver spoon in their hand, and they did not being from a wealthy family, how they can succeed, what it took him to succeed, and all the journey that was, like I will say in big step, of course, of him getting from a point of broke and nowhere and nobody to a point that he's a successful entrepreneur. He been building wealth, and he's doing something that he's enjoying. And I really enjoy his share, his session, his mindset. And I think it's going to be a great lesson for everybody that is listening to this. And this being said, let's get straight to the topic and start to see what we had today. And welcome everybody to Growth Mastermind Group. We're a group of entrepreneurs whose mission, vision, and purpose is to encourage other entrepreneurs to discover, fulfill, and unleash their potential. And today we're gonna have this amazing session with Mike Alden. And without any further ado, let's get into it. Thank you. Mr. Mike Alden, can you tell us more about yourself? What is your journey as an entrepreneur, who you are, what you do, and tell me about the story that you brought you to the Mike Alden that you are today, and how the journey went as a roll-up.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. I know we had a little bit of challenges getting on here, but we're here now, so I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to learn also a little bit about what you're doing. So yeah, I mean, my story, I wouldn't say that it's common, but I'm a kid from the projects. I grew up with nothing and grew up poor in my, state housing and subsidized housing, and with a single mom, and we had to struggle for, the basics in life, from just making sure the electricity was on to our dinners on Thanksgiving were subsidized by the Salvation Army or other charitable organizations. So as a young kid growing up in that very, very difficult situation, and there were some really terrific ones that I've talked about a lot of putting in my books. You can go a couple different ways. You can become a criminal because you have no choice, because you want things, and the only way you're going to get them is if you're going to steal them, right? Which I did do when I was a kid. Or you can also try and figure out a way to become an entrepreneur, and you can figure out a way with the resources that you have and the things that are surrounding you, and figure out a way to make money. And I'll give you some examples. I actually don't even think I talked about this one before ever on a podcast, so this will be fun. So I lived next to a golf course. I grew up in a town called Beverly, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the American Navy. It's a very unique town where there is old money, like real old money, like people that came over from the Mayflower, landed here, and started their roots here, to kids like me growing up in the projects. And so I was next to a golf course, and what we found is that golfers, they would hit the balls into the woods, and they would never go get them, right? And so as young kids, we realized that, and so we would go into the woods. A lot of times I can look back, close my eyes, and hear the noises of the golf balls hitting the trees. It was like a fun game for us, because we knew that we could potentially have a ball that was in the woods, And if we found a really nice golf ball, a top flight or a pinnacle or what have you, a Titleist that was nice and wasn't damaged, we'd go and clean it up, and then we'd go on one of the holes, and we would stand there and we would sell these golf balls to the golfers. Probably sometimes the golf balls themselves, they hit in the wood themselves. And you know what? That the golf course, they didn't sanction us. Like, in other words, we weren't allowed to be there, but we also really weren't doing anything wrong. And sometimes you make 20, 30 bucks in a day. And I did all the other fun stuff too. You hear about it. I had the paper route, and I had lemonade stands, and I shoveled driveways in the winter, and I hustled chocolates and stuff for school. So I did all that stuff. I took advantage of the opportunities that I had. So it's out of necessity. I think a lot of entrepreneurs become successful because we have nothing else. And when you look at very successful entrepreneurs, a lot of them started out at the very bottom, or they hit rock bottom because they had no other choice. And fortunately for me, I had no other choice in the very, very beginning. So I had to kind of figure out, how am I going to make money to buy the things that I wanted? What am I going to do? I talk about my first book, Ask More, Get More. I went around and I collected cans, the 5-cent cans. I don't think I have any here. And to buy my first bike, I went and collected cans to buy ice cream and things like that. So, even in this world that we're living in today, I just wrote an article for a magazine called Boston Man Magazine, talking about the side hustle. Everybody talks about their side hustle, and especially now with inflation worldwide, and people are still struggling, post COVID. There are the opportunities for us as human beings right now are truly amazing, and so I think too the word entrepreneur is thrown around very loosely, where everybody thinks they're an entrepreneur, right? They think they're an entrepreneur. Everybody isn't an entrepreneur. But here's the thing. Everybody can have the entrepreneurial spirit, right? The entrepreneurial spirit that can get them to where they need to go. So if you're working for somebody else and you're not making enough money, well, look, you have opportunities. You have websites. We can sell things. You can get on these different websites. You can get on Amazon and
run a business. It's an entrepreneur. He takes more than that. However, I was just wondering, like, what made you, like, considering, learning about all the background and all the rough period of the life that you had. I was just wondering, what, if you can share with us, what made you to choose this legal path, to choose the legal school? What urged you to do that?
what I thought at the time were kind of like at the top of the food chain, so to speak, in professions. You get lawyers, doctors, and priests as far as studying is concerned. And so I just kind of knew that. So when I graduated college, I was political science. I interned for a congressman. I just knew I wanted to go to law school, and so I did. And the interesting thing about the education that you get in law school is that depending on how you focus, it's better than an MBA because you can learn the legal side of business that most people don't know, right? And so when you learn that, and then a lot of it is applicable to real life. And so I just knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I did. I went to law school nights while I worked. It was extremely difficult to do working. I was married, and it was hard. I mean, I had my days down to minutes, like literally minutes. I had, my clothes laid out from the night before, the food that I was going to eat the night before, because I had to be at work at 7 a.m., at my desk at 7 a.m. And then I had class in Boston at 6. And so I was working from 7 and I would leave at like 4:30. And then I did that, 4 days a week, and then on the weekends I was studying. And so I wanted it. And so when you want something like that, you go after it, and I did. And I loved every second of it. It was very, very difficult, but I loved every second of it.
And you mentioned a lot of stuff that, is colliding with this idea of environmental discipline, which is one of the most, I would say, important traits as an entrepreneur. And I was wondering, like, how you managed to get discipline yourself, because, to the past, everything that happened in the past, the turnaround that you had, all the noise around you, yeah? And how you managed to get quiet and focus on that path to the point of discipline yourself to get to, because you really need that discipline to have like notch down to get to where you've been and the situation you've been. So can you elaborate a little bit?
It's simple. It's real simple. My parents, even though my parents had issues, my mom was crazy strict, trying to tame a 15-year-old lunatic. She would physically hold me down sometimes, so when I would try to get out. My parents were divorced, but my father was always in the picture. He was a little bit different than my mom. He was a little more laid back, right? Teachers and coaches. Like, if it wasn't for teachers and coaches, who knows where I would be? Obviously, my parents, but the teachers and coaches, they saw something in me that I didn't see. And so I also, I was fortunate that that I was able to see the rewards of the hard work, right? And so football, for instance, right? So I was a big dude. I was pretty athletic, but there's other people that are just naturally gifted. I don't know that I was naturally gifted. So I needed to work harder. And when I did, I saw the result. And so that stuck with me. And so, baseball, the same thing. I played baseball, up into my junior in high school. And then the same thing with academics. Everybody's like, oh, I have ADD, I have ADHD, I have a learning disability. I think a lot of that stuff is bullshit. I think people are just using that for an excuse because you know what? When I was in law school, I didn't enjoy reading Latin and trying to learn a whole new language essentially and reading page after page after page over and over and over again. I didn't like it, but I also knew from the previous stuff that if I just applied myself and I did, like you said, quieted the noise, literally going to the library, not talking to anybody, no cell phone. I mean, I would have headphones because I, listen to music or something like that. That's it. And so, like when I was studying in law school on, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever, even undergrad, while all these other kids were all partying, we're just doing different things. My goal was, I was going to graduate law school, and same thing with everything else. And so I just feel that when you put in that work, and it's not easy, it's hard, man. You have to be consistent, and that's the hardest thing. I think most people are consistently inconsistent, right? And then we all battle with that. I battle with that. Like I get into like these manic moments where I'm like, all right, let's go, and then I just drop off because we're all human. It's just the way the world works. These people that talk about being, on all the time, it's not real. Like we're all human, okay? So the people that are like on all the time, I do sometimes wonder, I'm like, okay, like what substances are they taking, right? Because it's just impossible. Like our bodies are not designed that way. But as far as the discipline, man, when you start to see the result, then you realize, okay, cool. And here's another thing. I talked to my 16-year-old daughter about this. She's an extremely hard worker. Her mom's a hard worker. They're not married anymore, but she's a hard worker. And we talk about putting in that effort. But we also talk about putting in the effort. And sometimes you don't get the result that you expect. And that's really hard, right? So for instance, you study for a test and you go in and you know it's cold. And you go in and the teacher, the way he structured or she structured the test, you don't know all the answers. So now you're in a panic. You're like, all right, well, and then you come on to that test and maybe you end up with like a C+ when you were expecting an A. My ex-wife kind of probably disagrees with this a little bit, but I'm okay with that because you put in the effort, right? Not everybody's going to get the result they want, and that's life, right? Because I've had numerous businesses. I have numerous businesses, and most of them have failed. And I put a lot of effort and a lot of money into them, and they fail time and time and time again. But then you have those ones that are successful, and you're like, well, what's the key element? I don't necessarily know that I have the answer for that. A lot of time in real world, it's undercapitalization. But so sometimes you just have to, put in that effort in order to see it through. And then you do have to get to a moment where you're like, all right, I'm done. This isn't working. Shut it down. So I was able to answer your question. I was just able to see the result of hard work.
And a very important part that you just mentioned, and I think this is so crucial, like the moment that you're down and you're on that path of not being consistent, yeah? What was the thing that you were using to bounce off, and just in a few words, because I know we're running very short with the time.
I'm not sure I understand.
In the moment you were down, on that downside, like that we're talking, what were the elements how you were bouncing off back on the track on those down moments?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked a lot about this too. Like, it's not easy, man. Like, there have been plenty of times where I just curl up on a ball and just want to call it a day, and I don't do anything. You go into like these mini depressive states, and that's just the reality of being a human being. It's like a part of the human experience. And so you and I were talking earlier before we went live about a lot of people see the result, or they see the bling, or they see the fun stuff, but they don't see the non-sexy work that's involved and pulling yourself up and having your own little self-talk and saying, man, like, I can do this, and when you're depressed and the world is beating you up and you're broke and your light's about to get shut off or whatever, like those are the moments that nobody wants to go through. So, you have just really only two options. You give up, right? Or you move forward. And it's okay to give up for a little while too. I think people also discount that. It's okay to just like, all right, man, like, yeah, it didn't work, and I feel bad for myself a little bit, but you just can't stay there, right? Because if you stay there, and so many people in this world stay there, and they give up on life, and they don't even realize it. Like they've given up on life, and so you see it in their eyes when you talk to these people, and it's a really sad state of affairs because they can be so much more, and whatever that means, it's different to everybody. I'm not talking about financial success or any of that stuff, so I'm wearing this hat, right? It says Wicked Happy, and I got one of our hats on, and I'm not here to promote that stuff, but I just want to tell you the story because years ago I spoke at an event called Build Your Empire. Brad Lee was there, John Malott, Casey Adams, and there were all these also young hustlers there, right? And at the time I had 200 employees and doing like 50 million a year, crazy numbers. And these kids are pulling up with Ferraris, Bentleys, Rollses, and I don't have any of that. I have nice stuff, but I don't have any of that stuff, right? And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I was saying to my wife, and so this guy comes up to me and he says, look, I got this t-shirt business, and we're doing like 6 million a year selling t-shirts. And I was like, that's a pretty good number, selling t-shirts out of Michigan. And I wasn't impressed with the website. I wasn't impressed with the marketing. I wasn't impressed with any of it. But he showed me a Shopify account. It was like, it was like 600K that month. And I was like, wow, like I was kind of blown away by it, And I get back to the hotel and I was talking to the lawyer that works for me. And my wife was in the room and I said, man, I just want to be Wicked Happy. And that was 3.5 years ago. I'm tired of all this stuff of having all these people and doing all this stuff. I'm tired of all that, like the way I'm treated. And because I sell supplements, I've been selling supplements for 20 years. And I'm treated like a criminal. And I said, man, I just want to be Wicked Happy. And so she says, I think that's a t-shirt. We're from Boston, And he says, I think that's a brand. And so that business, now 3.5 years in, I don't really, call it 2.5 because it would just take a year off of COVID. It started to literally spread wicked happiness worldwide. Is it a massive moneymaker for us? Absolutely not. But I've been very fortunate to realize that the money and all that stuff truly is irrelevant if you're not happy. And so I'm at a stage in my life where I'm like, you know what, man, I just want to be happy. And I want the people around me to be happy, like truly be happy. And so as a business, we're selling happiness now, and that makes me happy. And by the way, it's not easy, right? There are moments where it's hard, and we can't get shirts, and we can't get hats, and shit comes in wrong. That's just business. But at the same time, it makes me happy. And so when I look at like life and business and the struggle and the things that we're talking about, and a lot of times people say, well, follow your passion. Okay, well, I think a lot of people never find their passion, and that's really sad. But at the same time, if you say yes to a lot of things like I've done, you may find it. And also, like, okay, when I spoke at that event, I didn't know when I was going there that I was going to come out of there with this idea of Wicked Happy, which is now sold all over the world and helping people. Like, I didn't know that, I was going to get into that business. And by the way, I didn't even understand the business. Never sold a t-shirt in my life, never sold a hoodie in my life. But the cool thing about it is now it's turning into like a real business. And so I say that, when you are down and out, when you have those tough moments, Grant Cardone talks about this, and he's got a great video out there. And I like Grant, and we're not like besties, but I can text him now and respond. But like, he talks about, if you're at a bad point in your life, if you're depressed or whatever, do shit. Just do something. Just go do something that's, productive, right? Because when you start to do that, then you get momentum. And then when you get momentum, you get success. And then success kind of builds on success, right? And so when you're feeling bad, or you're having a tough day, like, just go out and just do something, man. And you'll find that those opportunities will come. So back to what you said, when I'm in those dark moments, and I'm in them a lot, you know, knock on wood, it hasn't been that bad lately, but I just know that I just got to get up and do shit. And when I say do shit, like, it doesn't have to necessarily be business. It's like go for a walk, go to the gym, whatever it is, just get out of your own head so that those opportunities will start to come.
Amazing advice. And you know, because I know that we're getting to the time that you have
Yeah,
to
you know,
leave.
I can go like another 10 minutes. I texted the
Okay.
guy that I
Okay.
that I was meeting with.
Because I want to make sure that you're going to be on time.
Yeah.
What advice you will give for somebody that will start a business and they want to get better, I will say, on there, and they never did this before, from all the, I will say, the experience you gather with time, all the things that you pass through, what would be the elements that you think somebody should be, like, I will say, enabled with, you know, to be able to be successful, to get something done in the right way?
You know, a lot of people talk about working in your business and on your business and the differences between that stuff. I'm a believer in that whatever business you're in, you need to know how to do almost every aspect of your business. You need to learn about different aspects of your business. And so, like my supplement business, you know, I'll pack boxes, I'll work in shipping, you know, I'll get on the phones and make sales myself. I'll take customer service calls, all those things so I can learn and understand the business. With this business, with the Wicked Happy stuff, same thing. Like, I mean, you can see videos of me out there. Like, I'm making hats myself. I was just at a festival by myself in a tent. It was like 100 degrees out, and it was not a good result because people weren't out. But I was out there doing it, and I actually had to remind myself, like, this is what I want. This is what I want to do, and you know, let's learn something from this. Okay, maybe next time, I don't know, maybe we bring some sort of portable AC and make it so that people are going to want to come to our booth or whatever. So, you know, when you're in business, I think you need to learn virtually every aspect of your business so that you can be successful, because nobody thinks like you. And I also say to people who own businesses, nobody cares as much as you. Gary Vee talks about this, and he says, well, don't expect your employees to care as much as you, he says. I love Gary, but I disagree with that because if the employees don't care as much as me, then I don't want them working. I want them to care as much as me. I want them to respond to an email on the weekend. I want them to respond to a text message late at night, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm like always in a startup mode. So I would say to anybody in business, learn every aspect of your business. You know, don't be so caught up in pride that you can't do these things. Like, I will literally, look, I'm not even kidding. I'm here in this is an actual form production studio we're in, and sometimes we'll have a cleaner come here. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to save myself a couple $100. I will clean the toilet myself with my hands. Because, you know what? Because maybe I can't get her here in time or whatever. And I'm not afraid to do that. And I don't care what people think. You know, I built this massive house in my hometown. It was a big statement, right? In this beautiful neighborhood. And again, the town I grew up in, I really love the town. And I mean, it was just gorgeous, right? And the first year I was there, I was out there, I was planting flowers myself. And the guy who built the house drove by and he goes, don't you have people for that? Did you have people do that? Of course we have landscapes. I'm like, yeah, of course. But like, I also maybe want to learn a little bit about maybe planting these flowers here. And maybe, you know, next year I'll have somebody else do it, but I don't know. Let's just see how they look and see what they look like, you know? So I think it's like that with business as well. You need to know every aspect of your business, especially then as you grow. Because you talk about growing. So as you grow, if you've been a part on the front lines, then you can look at the people that are on the front lines and say, oh, hey, maybe you should do it like this, you know? And last thing I'll say about this is that also listen to those people. Listen to the people that are on the front lines. Listen to the people that are doing, you know, the work that you maybe don't want to do. Really listen to them, because they're the ones that are really kind of running the business. And just if they have something to say, even if you don't like it, hear them out. I get it all the time. I get people reaching out to me telling me how I should run my business. You should do this. You should do that. You should. And sometimes it irritates me, but I listen. I don't always comply, but I listen. Yeah.
So listen to everything, have your glass empty, and be proud of your work, I guess, you know, because I think what you said earlier, is being, part of taking pride of what you do and be humble in the work you do.
Stay
And I
humble.
love that thing, because it's a lot of things that, like we kind of forget, like about humbleness and be like there in the trenches to help everybody and not sure, not forget where you start from and all the
Trust me,
enemies.
I enjoy the fruits of my labor. I enjoy,
Yep.
hanging out at the
Yep.
wind towers in Vegas and, and going to these fancy places and wearing nice stuff and having nice stuff. But none of that shit even would come to me if it wasn't for the fact that, I'm in the trenches and, and like I said, I will do whatever it takes. I'm carrying boxes, I'm sweeping floors, I'm doing the stuff that needs to be done. My last book is titled Blueprint to Business, an entrepreneur's guide doing the things that most people won't, right? Because most people aren't willing to do the work. So simple, right? Most people aren't willing to do the work. And, so if you're not willing to do the work, then go work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to do the work for them or you're going to get fired.
So yeah, you have options. Mike, where people can find you, what is the things that where people can find more about you, more about Wicked Happy, how they can find more about your store and what is the way that they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, if people are interested in, connecting with me, you can just go to mikealden.com. Check out, you can also go to Alden Media, ALDEN Media, and then you can just check me out on Instagram. It's Mike Alden 2012. If you're interested in Wicked Happy, just go to wickedhappy.com, see what we're doing there. It's a lifestyle brand that I'm super passionate about, that we're continuing to spread happiness worldwide. And I think it's great that you're doing this. And I think it's also a great opportunity for people to learn from, the guests you have and what you're doing. I know you're doing some big stuff on Clubhouse as well. So I appreciate you having me, man. And I know that that's technical difficulties, but we're here, we made it.
Yeah.
And I'm appreciative that we're able to.
And I appreciate to being here. I appreciate the fact that you shared that story. I think it's so important for people to understand that not everybody has a silver spoon, and you don't have to be born with that silver spoon to be able to make it. And this, you're a proof of that one. And I think that's extremely important. And it's encouraging for a lot of entrepreneurs that you can have humble starts and even like rough starts, and you still can make it as long as you're going to put your mind to it. And whatever we can think of, we can achieve. And with the right, I would say, discipline and with the right mindset, you can get to the point where you can be wicked happy. So
that's it.
Thank you very much one more time, Mr. Alden, and we appreciate you and looking forward to hear more from you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for making it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Bye.